A long time ago, aliens used human bodies to imprison their most dangerous monsters, but mankind was not aware of this horrible experiment. The year is 1380. A bunch of soldiers are trying to kill a woman who's apparently floating in the air, but they're quickly ambushed by a tentacle monster that throws them into the walls. Before the fight continues, the people notice a blinding light appearing from the sky as a car jumps out from the portal while smashing onto the ground. The vehicle eventually stops as a robot called Thunder appears and begins examining the woman who's levitating by herself. It turns out that she was used as a vessel for the alien creature, but the prisoner has managed to escape the confinement. A second robot known as Guard begins tracking down the monster, who appears to be hiding inside a nearby building. Suddenly, they're attacked by the enemy, who knocks the tiny robot onto the walls, but Guard is able to jump in immediately and begins blasting the enemy like he's from the Avengers. The robot eventually forces the escaping creature to return to its host and regaining control over the woman's body. This causes the girl to drop down onto the ground as she charges directly towards the android while shooting out her tentacles. The robot sees this and manages to stop the enemy just in time as he begins extracting the alien creature from the girl's face and into his palm. The woman eventually falls down while the robot catches her on the ground as she begs her savior to take care of her infant daughter before passing away from the injuries. Thunder hears this and quickly goes towards the baby as he becomes intrigued by the tiny human and rescues her from the hostile soldiers while transforming into his human form. The other android quickly takes out his transportation device and opens up a portal once again. He transforms into the same human form but demands that they leave the infant behind as they should not interfere with human affairs. The two quickly gets into the car as they drive directly towards the portal and returning back to their own time, which appears to be 2012. It's quickly revealed that the robots are actually wardens from a distant galaxy who are stationed here to make sure that the hostile aliens would never escape. However, this time their mission has ran into a different obstacle as Guard begins to hear a noise coming from his car. The man goes to investigate immediately, but is surprised to see the infant inside the trunk, who's been brought here by his partner despite his disapproval. This greatly angers the warden as he sees the baby as nothing but dead weight, but Thunder believes that they can learn more about humans by raising her. The Guardian has no choice but to accept the girl into his house while he patiently awaits for his next mission to occur. On the other side, in the year of 1391, a man called Maruk is showing off his skills towards the elderly as he tries to prove that he's the most powerful mage in town. Surprisingly, it only took an old lady to demonstrate how weak he actually is as he tries desperately to get out without fainting on the ground. It's quickly revealed that the man is actually a bounty hunter who tracks down criminals from inside the city by using his magical powers. However, he's quickly stopped by other bounty hunters who begins attacking him by sending him into the sky and crashing onto the ground. This gives him no other choice but to attack his competition as he begins using his magical fan to summon a pair of demon cats to fight against the enemies. The creatures eventually turn into humans who are capable of fighting like wild animals, and they're easily able to overpower the enemy together. At the same time, Maruk is able to hold back the other hunter as well and begins using the enemy's own technique as he throws the man away using tremendous force. He eventually apprehends the criminals and collects the money for his work, but soon stumbles upon another bounty that's looking for a strange dagger. Suddenly, the man begins recalling memories from his childhood as he seems to have heard about this item before, which makes him decide to take on this mission immediately. The bounty hunter quickly goes towards the city where the mysterious weapon was last seen and eventually arrive into a tavern. Maruk begins inquiring about the item but is only insulted by another mage who tells the man to leave immediately. This greatly angers the hunter as he tries to show off his powers but is quickly stopped by the opponent who paralyzes him by using only 2 fingers. Maruk is pushed backwards by the old man as he freezes like a living statue and is forced to watch the wizard walk away onto the second floor. It's quickly revealed that the old man is supposed to be having a meeting with someone known as the killer, who's somehow wearing modern clothing not from this time. The wizard takes out the mysterious knife and questions about its origins, but the strange man only says that it rightfully belongs to him. At the same time, Maruk has finally regained control of his body while limping onto the stairs, but quickly sees a giant tentacle shooting out from the walls. He tries to go investigate, but only sees that the wizard is severely injured by the killer, which forces the old man to toss away the magical knife right in front of a beggar. This causes the killer to jump down immediately as he begins chasing after the homeless man. Maruk sees this and quickly runs behind them as well, and the three begin sprinting across the streets while causing chaos in the process. Luckily, the hunter is able to use his magic and begins jumping onto the roof, while the killer reveals himself to be an alien as he launches a tentacle directly at the homeless man. The killer is eventually able to corner the human, but Maruk shows up just in time and begins conjuring his magic, which knocks the alien into the walls. The hunter goes towards the beggar immediately, but before he can retrieve the knife, a tentacle grabs onto his arm and begins smashing the man continuously on the buildings. This allows the alien to go after the weapon once again, as Maruk eventually recovers and begins chasing the enemy as well. The hunter quickly catches up with the alien and attacks the enemy a second time by hitting the opponent's vital spots, but is shocked to see that the strike was not effective at all. The killer eventually grabs onto the man and throws him onto the buildings nearby, while sending a barrage of furious punches towards the hunter that quickly knocks him unconscious. This allows the alien to chase after the weapon once again, while the hunter is eventually found by his two comrades who are able to wake him up as well. What they didn't expect was to also find an even stranger object behind the walls, which appears to be a spaceship that was abandoned by something not from this world. On the other side, 10 years have gone by since the robots adopted the human baby, who has grown up to be a young girl called Yang. However, she doesn't trust her father at all due to his odd behaviors and secretly places a cell phone inside the car to spy on his guardian. They eventually arrive back into their hideout while she pretends that everything is normal, but secretly begins listening to the androids and hiding behind the walls. It's quickly revealed that another convoy will be arriving on Earth in a nearby hospital, where over 100 aliens will be implanted into the humans. After realizing what's going to happen, the girl quickly gets onto her bicycle and eventually arrives in front of the hospital, where she plans to record everything as well. Very soon, a bunch of clouds begin to appear in front of all the people, which is hiding a giant spaceship, and it quickly launches a mysterious device directly towards the building. The strange item levitates into the hospital and begins growing rapidly, eventually turning into a giant cocoon and shocking all the workers into disbelief. A doctor goes closer to investigate the mysterious object and causing it to open up, as it reveals a tentacle inside that's pointing directly at the human. Very soon, the alien device launches towards the people and stabbing everyone on the back of their necks while shutting off their consciousness as well. The tentacles quickly invades the entire hospital while infecting everyone as a result. Yan sees the horrific sight and tries desperately to escape the area, while all the victims are hunted down as their brains are fused together with the alien creatures. The girl eventually makes it towards the building's exit, and to her surprise, she sees her father appearing inside the building as well. This causes her to quickly run the other way, as she can no longer trust her guardian anymore. Very soon, the tentacles release the humans and retreats back into the yellow shells, while quickly shrinking down into its previous form. The people are returned back into consciousness without any memories of the incident, while all the humans begin acting like everything is normal. Gar takes the chance and quickly retrieves the rock, while contemplating about what to do with the young girl. Luckily, the man is eventually able to find his daughter and convince her to come back in return for the truth. They head back towards the hideout, and the androids begin explaining to the girl that they have implanted dangerous species from their civilization inside humans for hundreds of years. However, sometimes the human mind is able to eventually reject the process, which allows the aliens to temporarily escape its host, as they can only survive in the planet's atmosphere for 5 minutes. The robots' jobs are to ensure the capture of the criminal species, but they have no obligations to save humanity. Meanwhile, in the past, the bounty hunter has finally found the killer's hideout, but only to see that their enemy has already left. Luckily, they're able to find the weapon's whereabouts, as it was purchased by a nearby businessman. What they don't realize is that a mysterious monk is also looking for the crystal knife, as he hires 2 powerful wizards to look for the weapon immediately as well. At the same time, Murek is able to find the man who's supposed to marry the businessman's daughter and forcefully takes over the identity of the groom. This allows him to get inside the palace while disguising as the suitor as he pretends to be there to marry the young woman. However, before the man can reach in and do some bedtime exercises, he quickly finds a weapon in the woman's lap that's much bigger than his own, which means that the bride is also from the future. The woman insists that the man drink some tea before the aggressive cuddling, but the hunter quickly begins feeling dizzy as he crashes down onto the floor. It turns out that the bride was also an imposter who's here to steal the weapon just like the hunter. What they don't realize is that the two wizards are here as well, and they begin using their magic to force the people to bring out the crystal knife. The woman sees this and quickly rushes out while easily fighting off the incoming guards and using her gun to dispose the enemies. She threatens the mages to give up at gunpoint as she finally manages to grab onto the knife, not realizing that the wizards actually have an ace up their sleeves. The mages are able to turn invisible as they attack the girl continuously while hiding behind their cloak and trying to steal the dagger at the same time. Luckily, the woman is able to restrain the enemy and points her gun towards the man's head while shooting a bullet directly at the other wizard and stunning them both at the same time. This allows the girl to run away immediately, but what she doesn't realize is that the mysterious monk is here as well and is able to knock her unconscious as a result. The man slowly approaches the woman and quickly takes the weapon for himself, while the hunter is rescued by his two friends, which allows them to escape from the area as well. Meanwhile, in the future, a spaceship appears in the solar system as it rushes directly towards Earth and eventually arriving onto the planet's atmosphere. The Guardians have also received the urgent news, and it turns out that a criminal organization is trying to free their leader, who was implanted inside a human that was in the hospital. Realizing that trouble is nearby, the androids quickly decide to intercept the prison break, but Yan demands to come along as well. With no more time to waste, Guard decides to take the girl while transforming the entire vehicle into a spaceship that launches into the sky and heading directly for the alien host. At the same time, the man implanted with the alien leader slowly wakes up inside a room that he doesn't recognize while the danger is already here. He tries to get out from the building but quickly sees a creepy robot that's heading towards him. The man escapes into the elevator, but the doors are crushed open by the red cyborg, who manages to jump into the area as well. The robot approaches the man slowly and claims to be here to free his leader from the human body. Luckily, before anything can be done, Guard is able to jump in and begins fighting the enemy furiously while eventually gaining the upper hand as he smashes the opponent onto the wall. The warden tries to finish off the enemy, but the robot quickly launches a powerful laser that pushes the Guardian backwards and causing tremendous damage nearby. This gives the warden no choice but to stab the enemy's chest, while the two quickly gets pushed down the building and giving the human a chance to escape from the chaos. The man quickly runs towards the nearest car and escapes away from the area immediately. At the same time, the red cyborg is eventually able to gain the upper hand and paralyzes the warden while stealing the crystal dagger from the Guardian. The enemy quickly shoots a barrage of lasers, which ultimately sends the warden falling down into the abyss. This allows the robot to jump towards the rooftop as it goes into the spaceship and begins chasing behind the human that's holding his leader hostage. On the other side, Thunder eventually manages to find his friend as the warden is able to recover as well, and they plan on taking down the enemy together, who's getting closer towards the alien host. Before the enemy can catch the human, Guard is quickly able to charge in and begins shooting furiously towards the opponent and knocking down the giant spaceship at the same time. However, the enemy quickly recovers and immediately begins firing back while causing tremendous damage towards the city as it rips through the buildings like cardboard. Guard realizes that they can't stay here for long and quickly lures the enemy away from the population while rushing directly into the atmosphere. This allows the Guardian to turn back and tries to fire towards the opponent's weak spot, but eventually fails while getting hammered by the laser instead. The spaceship quickly loses control as it begins dropping towards the surface and crashing into the water as a result. The enemy sees this and quickly takes the chance while chasing after the human once again. The giant spaceship launches the laser towards the cars while causing a massive explosion that blows away the human host and knocking him unconscious inside the bus. Very soon, the alien is able to park the giant aircraft onto the street as he jumps out into the opening while planning to free his leader by using the knife. Luckily, Guard is able to fly in and attacks the enemy right away, but eventually fails to stop the opponent from stabbing the human with the crystal dagger. The warden sees this and tries to grab onto the human host, but is quickly stopped by the enemy and tossed away into the buildings using tremendous force. The red cyborg launches in and knocks the guardian into the walls before strangling the warden and quickly self-destructing to cause tremendous damage as a result. The alien boss eventually awakens as he sees the nearby spaceship, which causes him to expel from the human body and finally revealing its true form as well. The creature quickly stands up and begins walking towards the giant vessel while eventually opening the gates and making it inside the ship. Thunder takes the chance and follows the alien behind while quickly finding out that the creature has brought numerous amounts of gases from their home planet. It turns out that the enemies plan on changing the planet's atmosphere so they can all be freed without needing a human host anymore. However, this would also wipe out all the humans on Earth as the gases are poisonous to everyone else on the planet. Luckily, Guard is able to regain consciousness just in time as he charges towards the spaceship and jumping inside while trying to stop the aliens' plan. The two begins fighting furiously inside the aircraft, but Guard is able to gain the advantage and knocks the enemy backwards while throwing him outside the walls. This also caused two bubbles of gas to leak out into the air while the Guardian tries desperately to lock up the rest into the spaceship. Very soon, the alien boss is able to recover and returns back into the human host while eventually puncturing a gas container that releases countless poisons towards the people. This causes all the humans to die immediately within the area while creating chaos inside the streets as all the people try to run for their lives. The red gas begins expanding rapidly and covering the entire block, but luckily Thunder is able to save the young girl in the last moment by putting her inside the car and allowing her to escape from the area. At the same time, Guard is finally able to lock up all the gases inside the ship and eventually flying the vessel away from the area that's filled by victims of the attack. This terrible event is forever imprinted into the girl's mind, who's quickly revealed to actually be the young woman looking for the crystal weapon for the past 10 years. Yang eventually wakes up and realizes that she's been taken by the mysterious monk, who's also trapping her inside a force field, while the man reveals himself to be another alien that was looking for the weapon. The old man tries forcing the girl to tell him the whereabouts of the crash-landed spaceship so he can finally go home, but Yan refuses no matter what, even if it means her own death. It's quickly revealed that the monk is actually working with the killer as they're looking for their leader who has somehow disappeared while trying to find a way to return back to their own timeline. At the same time, Maruk is finally able to regain consciousness from the previous night, but has trouble figuring out what to do next. Luckily, he manages to find the followers of the alien monk and begins knocking them out one by one so he can take on their identities as well. This allows him to sneak into the monk's temple while eventually finding the location of the crystal knife as well. The man waits until sundown and begins lowering himself into the room like Mission Impossible, but quickly sees that the two wizards are here as well, but they appear to be somehow paralyzed. The hunter takes the chance and quickly retrieves the knife, but just before he's about to leave, the mages tell the man that everyone here has been poisoned by the aliens, which also includes Yan. Luckily, they have the antidote right here, which Maruk is able to take right away, and leaving the two wizards with the only other medicine on the table. This forces the mages to crawl towards the antidote and eventually curing themselves, while the hunter rushes towards Yan immediately to save her life. However, before the man can reach the girl, he's quickly attacked by the alien from across the building that sends him flying away and crashing down towards the ground. The hunter manages to eventually recover as he runs towards the girl and gives her the medicine immediately while hoping that it's not too late. Before the woman can recover, the man notices the aliens approaching him from the shadows and tries to attack right away, but is quickly stabbed by the enemy from behind. This leaves the hunter in critical conditions while the aliens are able to get back the knife as well. The enemies eventually decide to bury Yan alive while putting the hunter in a coffin and throwing him into the water to slowly drown. On the other side, in the future timeline, two more aliens have awakened inside the red atmosphere as they quickly join together with their leader while planning to take back the spaceship. The alien attacks have also been broadcasted onto the news, and Gar realizes that the enemies must be heading their way right now. He tells the girl that he must stay and fight the aliens despite realizing that he's heavily wounded from the previous battle. The android tells Thunder to take away the girl by using using their only vehicle so that she can be saved, while he plans on staying behind and facing the enemies all by himself. What he doesn't realize is that Yang would never abandon her family, even if the android is from a different planet. The girl's conviction has also made Thunder realize that they might win the battle if they somehow use the human's help, as he decides to return immediately to his friend. Very soon, the enemies have found the robot's location as they arrive onto the hideout, but is surprised to see that no one is guarding the area. The aliens quickly enter into the spaceship while the robot secretly plans to ambush them, but is quickly found by the alien boss, who throws the android crashing onto the ground. Guard tries to fight back immediately, but is completely overpowered by the enemies, while the aliens begin taking out all the poisonous gases into the room. Luckily, the robot is able to sense that his friends are coming back, as he quickly takes the crystal knife and throws it outside the spaceship. Thunder sees this and catches the weapon right away, while charging directly for the vessel's eye to destroy the aircraft in a single strike. However, he's quickly pushed back by the enemies, who sends a barrage of laser beams towards the robot that eventually knocks him flying towards the walls. At the same time, Guard continues trying to stop the alien as he refuses to give up, but is only grabbed onto by the enemy and quickly tossed outside towards the ground. Yan sees this and helps her father onto the car while conjuring up a plan to trap the enemies in a different timeline. The aliens realize that the Guardians are running away, which causes them to chase after the vehicle and using all their powers to try and destroy the people. Thunder manages to catch up as well and tells the android to open up the portal right now, as a bright light begins to form in space while sending everyone directly into the past. The people fly through the gateway as they launch across the sky, while eventually dropping into the trees, which brings them further down the mountains. The vehicle is forced to jump off a cliff as it crashes onto the ground and eventually stopping right before the fall. The Guardian quickly notices that the aliens are still alive and charges towards the enemy right away, but is only stabbed by the creature and thrown away like a ragdoll instead. However, the robot refuses to give up while trying to buy time for the young girl to run, but is quickly overpowered by the alien boss and torn apart by the enemy. Yan sees this and fires continuously at the alien, who quickly retaliates by shooting his tentacle and knocking the vehicle over the cliff while throwing the girl into the water. Luckily, Yang is able to get out just in time as she tries desperately to grab onto the crystal knife, but only losing it in the final moment. While the entire spaceship is drowning into the abyss, Thunder tells the girl to eventually find him, as they can still win the battle because of her. At the same time, a young Maruk sees the nearby commotion and is quickly able to find the young girl on the edges of the lake. The boy eventually manages to save her and take her back onto shore as well, but is surprised by the kind of clothing that she's wearing. Yan begs the young hunter to help her find the knife, as the boy quickly jumps into the lake and begins swimming deeper towards the bottom, where he manages to grab the girl's backpack. However, when he tries to go back up, he quickly senses that something is wrong as he sees a mysterious coffin inside the water. Suddenly, the wooden box begins shaking while the older hunter manages to finally break out, but is shocked to see his younger self inside the lake. The man quickly swims away in confusion as he makes it towards the surface, but strangely begins sensing that his power has somehow increased dramatically as well. At the same time, the aliens' minions are trying to bury the girl, but Yan is able to wake up and shoots the enemies from the inside while managing to eventually break out. She rushes towards the aliens immediately and shoots continuously at her enemy, which manages to knock off the crystal knife and allowing the girl to retrieve the weapon at the same time. Yan rushes away immediately as she tries to hide from the approaching enemies. Just before she can be found, the two wizards appear as well to take vengeance for being almost poisoned to death by their backstabbing employers. They try to hypnotize the opponents, not realizing that these are aliens in disguise, which quickly causes them to be thrown around and tossed away like nothing but insects. The killer eventually notices the girl as well and begins chasing her through the building while trying desperately to get back the knife. On the other side, the alien monk is continuing his fight against the wizards, but quickly falls prey to their unusual magics and dirty fighting tactics. This eventually allows the mages to pull out their ultimate weapon, which enlarges a giant container that quickly traps the enemy inside. At the same time, the killer finally manages to corner the girl and rendering her gun completely useless as he turns the weapon towards Yan and forcing her to pull the trigger. Luckily, before the woman can be killed, a giant sword begins flying towards the building and cutting off the creature's tentacles immediately. It's quickly revealed that Maruk has finally returned as he throws the enemy crashing into the fire pits. The hunter takes out the enormous sword and begins fighting furiously against the alien, while eventually gaining the advantage and knocking away the opponent. However, the creature quickly turns the tide as he begins shooting lasers towards the man while pushing the hunter backwards and crashing into the buildings. The female wizard sees this and decides to take on the alien all by herself as she enlarges her arm, which allows her to grab onto the enemy and slamming the opponent onto the ground. The alien tries to recover, but the woman quickly launches a second attack that pushes the enemy backwards continuously and crushing him onto the walls. Surprisingly, the alien manages to get up and counters the attack by using his laser beam, which forces the wizard to pull back immediately. This allows the enemy to launch his tentacles and throwing the woman away like a ragdoll. Luckily, Maruk is able to regain consciousness as he slowly walks outside and preparing to fight the aliens for a second time. The man quickly rushes forwards and leaps in to attack the creature while eventually managing to cut off the alien's arm that's holding the laser weapon. This allows him to strike the monster continuously and stabbing through the enemy in a single strike as he pins the alien onto the wall. At the same time, Yan notices the alien's human host and sees the magical mirror of the wizard, which allows her to conjure up a plan. The girl grabs onto the glass and throws it towards the enemy while shooting her gun directly at the mirror. This turns the bullet into a cannonball, which destroys the human host and sending him crashing onto the ground. However, the fight is not over yet as the alien monk inside the ceiling container begins to vibrate and eventually breaking out as a result. The old man quickly levitates into the sky while the second alien begins to reveal its true form that's even larger than his friend. The creature turns the attention towards Maruk and charges forwards immediately to save the other alien. Luckily, Yang is able to show up just in time to distract the enemy by shooting her gun and luring the creature away from the hunter. The girl eventually makes it towards the boat and tries desperately to escape from the area while the alien follows her closely behind. The creature is quickly able to locate the boat and jumps on top to kill the human, but only sees that the vessel is completely empty. It turns out the girl was able to escape just in time as she secretly swims away inside the water alongside the demon hunter's cats. On the other side, the injured alien is slowly disappearing into the air as it cannot survive with its human host already dead. However, despite winning the fight, Maruk begins to feel that something is wrong as he starts remembering his past memories where he saved the young girl and got back her belongings. They eventually spend the night together, but soon begins hearing something from inside the forest. The young boy decides to go investigate immediately, but only to see that the alien boss is limping towards him while eventually implanting into his body as well. Realizing that there's an alien inside his heart, the hunter faints onto the ground and eventually losing his consciousness as a result.